Okay guys, well, welcome to our next class. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're new here, my name's Kat, and we are learning languages in a fun way on this channel, which is why it's called Languages But Fun. So I think that given my intention, this outfit might be a little bit too formal. Let me get changed. Okay, there we go. I think that's a little bit better, and I'm a little bit more comfortable now. So language learning is something that needs preparation, just like any other endeavor in life. And so in this lesson, I'm going to share why I'm prepared to teach you and why and how you can prepare to learn. So the first thing is that I have studied languages literally my entire life. I have a video somewhere up in the cards where you can click and watch my full story, so I won't go into it too much, but basically I grew up with 4 native tongues or 4 languages spoken at home. And then when I went to university, I didn't really want to go, but I come from a pretty academically focused family, so it was kind of not an option for me not to go. And then I was like, okay, well, if I am gonna go, let me study how I study. Let me study languages and how my brain picks them up, because I had never actually studied a language, right? I had always kind of grown up with them. So I wanted to learn how the process itself worked. So because I spoke Spanish and French already growing up, and a little bit of Italian, I decided to formally study Italian. I also studied linguistics and literature and world religions because I just like to learn. And in doing so, kind of refined my understanding of how my brain was picking this stuff up. How is it doing this? And so while I was in school as well, I started teaching. I started volunteering and then teaching kids of all ages, then adults. And today I teach flight attendants. So I teach a lot of adults who want to further their careers. But there are all areas of life that I've taught. I've taught seniors, I've taught children, and this method works on everybody. So whatever you have going on in your life, you can learn a language for sure. And so that brings us to our next point, which is, well, how do you prepare for this? Well, the thing I can suggest to you is to consider one fact, which is that there's one thing that you know how to do that literally everybody in your life knows how to do, and that is speak. Even I'm not being prejudiced against people with disabilities, right? There's people who speak sign language, there's people who speak Braille or can read Braille. So we all are innately born with this capacity to learn language. However, what often stops us from language learning, and what most likely has stopped you from learning a language so far, is limiting beliefs. So what is a limiting belief? A limiting belief is a belief that you have carried over since you were young, since the past, maybe since not that long ago, but that doesn't apply to your current life or to your current reality, but that you still think it does. So it's a belief that you're holding on to as true, although it may not be. And it's just limiting your life at this point. So for example, it would be maybe when you were a child, you were told not to talk to strangers because of your safety, but then now you're an adult, and if you still didn't talk to strangers, you would make no friends, you would have no colleagues, like you wouldn't be a social person because everyone is a stranger at some point. So there are some beliefs that it benefits us to let go of with time. You want to let go of some things that just don't fit anymore. You know, like snakes have to shed their skin to become a bigger snake, which is maybe not the best metaphor because we're not snakes, but you know what I mean? We are evolving and we are growing and we are expanding all the time as people. So sometimes we need to look at our beliefs and look at the things that we're still holding on to that maybe are just keeping us small. So examples of limiting beliefs that stop people in language learning all the time are things like, I'm not smart enough, other people can do it but not me, I'm not disciplined enough, I'm too old to learn a language, I'm not a kid anymore, I don't have time, I'm too busy, I never remember things, or I had a terrible experience, so I can't do it now. Things like that. I see all of this all the time with my students and have seen it over the last decade. And I have to say that no matter who you are, we can turn it around. The key though is to be patient. So I won't expect you to be overnight someone who believes that they're smart and they're capable and they can learn languages like this. And neither should you, right? Patience is part of the process of learning, and it's the first step to being well prepared. No, just like as if you were going to the gym, you know, your tummy's not going away overnight. Your breath and your stamina takes time to build. And it's the exact same with language learning. You need to have that patience and the knowledge that the stamina, the focus, the ability, the certainty, the confidence that you know your stuff, this stuff comes with time. Fluency is not overnight. So that's the first thing, just being patient with yourself, right? Developing that self-love, that self-care to say, I don't need to be 0 to 100. I can be 0 to 1 to 2, etc. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is to build the right mindsets. So what are the right mindsets? Well, the right mindsets are things like believing that you are accountable for your own learning. So although I'm sharing really great knowledge with you guys, and you guys are going home and downloading the worksheets and doing your homework, I'm not you, so I can't learn for you. So although I'm there for you, and I will have lives with you guys where I can answer your questions, and I'll be available via DM or email or whatever to answer your questions, I also don't want to encourage you to fully rely only on me. So listen to music, watch or listen to podcasts, watch YouTube videos in the language that you're learning, because these things will further support your learning. I'll be sharing more tips on like how to structure your learning so that you build a nice ecosystem of productivity and joy around whatever language you're learning. But the key here is just to, and you know, subscribe to the newsletter to get that, but or to the channel. The key is to take accountability for your learning first and foremost. If you see yourself as capable and in charge of building your mind, there's no limits to how far it can go. So the next thing I want you guys to learn after taking accountability for your own learning and also being patient with yourselves is that the right mindset for language learning is that you are building a relationship. So what do I mean by that? I mean, a relationship is something that is a slow burn. There's really trendy videos here on YouTube that say, learn languages in 48 hours, learn languages in a week, learn languages while you sleep, which although the while you sleep one could have some validity, languages are not something that you acquire and you hit it and quit it. This is a relationship. This is not a one-night stand. We want to respect the cultures that we are being introduced to. So when we are learning about another culture, we're not learning about them in order to get something out of them. Just like when you meet somebody, hopefully you're not meeting them for the sake of seeing how you can use them. When we are meeting this culture, when we are meeting the language that we're meeting, we're going into it with the attitude of appreciation. I want to know how you are. I want to know who you are. I want to learn about you. And I want to appreciate you for it. I want to see how different it is. And I want to know how to see my own life in a different way, thanks to everything you taught me. At least that's my attitude. I think that it's the right attitude to have, because if you see it as a measure of your own intelligence, right? Like, how fast am I learning this? How smart am I? If you see it as, you know, how can I get this? How can I just become more successful because of this? All these things. Basically, if you go into it with the intention of being selfish, that's the result that you will get. I know it's a little contrarian to what's popular in social media, but I really believe that, and guys, you can go as fast or as slow as you want on this channel. All the lessons will be available. They'll all be in order. They'll all be foundational. So you can pace yourself. But my belief is that we're building a relationship here. We are doing something out of love, and we don't need to rush it, just like you wouldn't rush a good relationship. The next thing is that the languages that I teach or I specialize in are a branch of languages known as Romance languages. So Romance languages are languages that come from the Indo-European family, which you don't need to know about. But they are a branch of languages that are based off of Latin. So they come from spoken Latin, and they all branched out and did their own thing. So for example, French, Italian, Romanian, Portuguese, and Spanish. These are all derivatives of Latin. And something I fundamentally believe after living with Latin languages or Romance languages my whole life is that Latin languages are very heart-based. I believe that there's two kinds of cultures in the world: cultures that prioritize the mind and cultures that prioritize the heart. I think that Romance languages, because they are heart-based, they're very passionate, they're very beautiful, they're very moved by art, by beauty, by creativity, but because of this, they're not very stuck on logic. They don't care sometimes, you know? Like, yes, you could, you know, have a strict lunch hour, but what's the fun in that, right? So I think because of this, because this is inherent to the culture, because it's inherent to, it therefore becomes inherent to the language. And the language is not one that prioritizes logic, right? French, for example, will often change sounds in a word just so it sounds better. Italian as well. And sometimes you might wonder, well, why even do it this way if it doesn't make any sense? But you would be defeating the purpose of the Romance language if you made it less romantic. So, especially if you're coming from English, which we all are on this channel, if you're going from English to a Romance language, this is often a huge barrier to learning, because you will look at the Romance language and you will say, why does this not make sense? Why is it not like what I know? Why is it so illogical? And the answer is because you're going after romance, you're not going after logic. So if you are someone who's mentally stuck on why is it so different, your progress will be curbed. You won't be able to advance as much because you'll be so stuck on the fact that it's not like what you know already. So I invite you to let go of that. We're not going to build our world and expand based on everything we already know. You're learning a Romance language, hopefully to bring more passion, bring more love, bring more beauty, bring more romance into your life, right? Romanticize your life. Doesn't always make sense. So the last two key points that I want to share with you are that everything is figure-outable, or a growth mindset is key. So if you don't get something right away, it's not a sign that you're not smart. It's actually just a sign that you have come up against an obstacle and you can figure it out. So this is really key to language learning, and it's also key to life. This is something language learning actually taught me. When it comes to reality, everything is negotiable. You can always learn something you don't already know, because it's up to you to just figure it out. And especially with YouTube, there's no reason why you can't just learn more. Expand as much or as little as you believe you can. So there's no limits to you. There's no, intelligence is not capped, right? You're not born a certain level of smart and then you just kind of downhill from there. It's buildable. You can grow and learn as much as you want to. And so maybe it's small at first, but I invite you to see yourself as endlessly capable and intelligent. And even if you necessarily don't see yourself this way in the start, I see you this way. So if you spend time with me together week to week, I will hopefully help you see yourself as someone who can always figure it out, because I really believe that you can. And this is something that I use to navigate my day-to-day life. You know, like a lot of people might wonder, like, how do you speak 7 languages? How do you have a YouTube channel? How do you have your own business? How did you learn photography? All these things. And it's because languages taught me that, you know, you can always learn more. Everything is learnable. So I hope to share that with you. And last but not least is describe, don't prescribe. So in linguistics, there's a saying, which is that linguistics is descriptive, not prescriptive. Someone who has studied linguistics and wants to share languages with you, I will never judge you for how you speak. I might just point out the differences in sound. So for example, if you're saying something in your mind, you might say, oh, I'm saying this wrong. But in my mind, I would just say, oh, okay, try to open up the sound, or try to close the sound and make it more round, for example, if we're saying the letter O or something. So that's my goal for you too, is to convey this attitude of always being open to change without judging yourself for being the way you are if it's not like the optimal result. And so that's it. Those are all the mindsets that you need to succeed in this endeavor. Okay guys, so in order to finalize this lesson, here's what I would sum up as what you need to prepare for your language learning journey. Besides a computer, a laptop, or some sort of writing equipment like a journal, notebook, and pencil, what you'll need is, first of all, to let go of your limiting beliefs. Nothing you learned in the past led to you learning a language, so what's the point of holding on to those beliefs now? 2, understand and be patient with yourself through this process. You're not going to learn a language overnight, and nor should you. This is a slow burn, it's a slow build, and just like love or any relationship, it's going to take time to form into something solid and beautiful. Next, also don't judge yourself because there's no need, right? Everything is figure-outable, so you can learn anything you need to. And so when you come up against mistakes, just see it as not a prescription or a sign that you're not smart. Just see it as something that's figure-outable and notice the differences, right? Say maybe, the sound is this way versus that way. And last but not least, Romance languages are romantic, so they will throw you for a loop. They will not make sense sometimes, but neither does the heart. So I hope that this helps you prepare for this process of language learning together. I hope that together you are ready with me to start this process and to begin the journey of romanticizing our lives with Romance languages. So subscribe if you're not already so that you don't miss an episode, and join my newsletter so that you can have all the best pro tips right to your inbox. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye.